Hey everybody, welcome to the Southern Summer Book Club here at Southern Review of Books. My name is Bradley Sods, and I've been hosting this series throughout the summer. As we talk about our August pick, we're actually going to do things a little bit differently. We're asking that you, our virtual members, help us out by joining in the conversation in the comments below. We're hoping we'll be able to keep this conversation going as we talk about our new book for August, which is Dan Leach's Junah at the End of the World. So I have a couple of things I'm going to kind of get the conversation started with Dan's new book, but I want to kind of overview it first. So this is a book that's very much about the end of the world, as the title tells us. It follows a young guy named Junah who is dealing with a lot of stuff in his life. It's 1999, the end of 1999, with 2000 approaching. And for many of us who were around at that time, we remember the general kind of anxiety and fear that was in the world. Junah's at that same stage. He's worried about what's going to happen. He's worried about who he's going to become and what the world's going to be. But kind of beneath that surface a little bit, Junah's also kind of at this age where he's leaving behind his childhood. His parents have recently divorced and he's trying to deal with that. He's dealing with the possible endings of two friends from his school. Well, maybe friends is a difficult word, two classmates at his school. And he's also dealing with just general anxieties of the world on a larger kind of scale. So there's different kinds of endings just occurring throughout. And this book really smartly kind of explores what it means to be at an ending and how we process and how we deal with those endings. And there are two things that I want to just briefly talk about that for me make this book work so well. By the end, it has this really, and throughout it as well, it has this really tender and warm and funny voice and heart that exists. It just kind of keeps it moving along. And two things that I think really help it do this are the structure and the characters. And I'll talk about structure first because I think it's just, you don't see a lot of books, I think, with this structure, and I just really admire the way that it's put together. So if you haven't encountered the book yet, or if you have, you notice that as you open it up, it looks a little bit different than the traditional kind of novel that we see. So with the book, it's told in vignettes and moments and flashes and dialogue and quotes. And it's really interesting to just kind of step back and visually look at, because you see some sections that are maybe a paragraph or a few sentences long, and then you see other sections that may go on for a few pages. But still, they perform kind of these various tasks and work really well when put together. I was really interested in the different forms used in the vignettes, and I'm curious what our other readers out in virtual world will think about that as well. You have some sections that are just pure dialogue, where we have maybe Coach Mack, who's one of the teachers in this book, who's given some kind of advice, or from Miss Meacham, who's also one of the teachers in this book, given some kind of advice. But you also have these really interesting sections that are some of my favorites that are just pure dialogue, and it may be between Junah and his father, or Junah and whatever character we're looking at, and it really allows us to kind of be in those moments. And as I was kind of thinking about this book and reading through it, I kept thinking about, this is, I think, how life really presents itself in a lot of ways. We have these moments in our lives, we have these events that happen, and they may seem relatively small at times, or we get this advice from a certain person, or we hear this story from a certain person. And again, that may seem small, but in the larger sense of our life, I think those little moments add up, and they are actually what make a life in some kind of way. And I don't know that I've seen a book present that kind of development of life in exactly this way, which is one of the things I just really love about this book. It seems really authentic to how our lived experiences are. So I'm curious what other readers think about that. But another thing that I really enjoyed about this book, and hope that you'll chime in and we'll talk more about, is the characters. We have some really wonderful characters in this book. The mother and father have, their own disagreements with one another, but they each add a really thoughtful kind of moving, honestly, layer to the book by the different things that they're interested in and the different things that kind of make them tick. The mother is deeply interested in religion, and she wants Junah to listen to her and kind of, follow in that same kind of tradition. And the father he's a little bit more distant, but he also has these really beautiful conversations with his son that I think are some of the most intriguing parts of the book for me. Another thing this book does well is it builds on the young characters well. There's a character named Rusty who has probably the most moving, saddest, difficult part of the book that I'm still thinking about. I've read this book originally several months back, and I still think about that moment of a reveal of what happens to him. And anybody who's read this book, you know what I'm talking about. But I also think about Sadie, his crush, and the way that she's developed and her story and how she deals with her own kind of ending and how we see her own kind of ending develop. And also the teachers in this book just have really interesting, smart and thoughtful voices as well. So again, structure and character, I think it just combined together, they just make this book just sing. It's really beautiful in that way. I do want to pull a couple of parts of the book just to kind of get our conversation going, of just sections that I continue to think about and interested me. One is on page 8 in the book, when we're first kind of meeting Junah and learning about his character. A lot of times when we have young narrators or young characters, we see a lot of just really precociousness. And Junah, he's just, I was so fascinated by how he's developed. He seemed really true and real, and he has just this little bit of quirkiness, but it doesn't make him a gimmicky character. He's very real, I think, in what he's like. He's introverted. He is very kind of socially different. He has a speech impediment. He likes to wear sunglasses. And here's one of the early descriptions that I think is one of my favorite things about him, and also adds a really cool level to the book. But here's the line. Where most kids my age looked forward, I gazed back. For as long as I had been cognizant of thought, every piece of my past that should have faded, every face, every song, every leaf of every tree in the woods behind our house, it all got brighter in time. This is why I froze up when faced with questions about what I wanted for dinner, or what I wanted to do on the coming weekend, or worst of all, what I might become if the world did not end. Because the future always bored me. The book's very much about what's coming in the future, and for Junah to kind of set himself apart initially, again, this is on page 8, as being someone who's really not all that interested in the future. It adds this really thoughtful layer of the book about, well, what does it mean to live in the past when the future is what's guiding so many of the characters and situations in this book. So I was really interested in Junah as a character. Another thing, I mentioned structure, so I just wanted to read just on page 35 briefly 2 examples that kind of perfectly show how we see the unique structure in this book. There's one section, it's 6 lines here. Jobs that could suffice if all positions for toll taker on a road that dead ends in a ghost town are filled. 1. Night watchman at a small town aquarium. 2. Backup janitor at remote Arctic station. 3. Obscure painter. And that's just a tiny moment in the book, but it gives us this really great glimpse into the development of the character. And then just below that, I mentioned kind of the dialogue structure that we'll sometimes see in some of the sections of this book. I want to read this one because it really plays well and builds well into what the book's doing. So this is again page 35. My father called me on the phone the other night. He said we needed to talk. Him. Is Miss Meacham still having you work on those time capsules? Me. She is. Him. Is your mother still stockpiling food and talking about the rapture? Me. She is. Him. And what about you? What's your take on all this? Me. All of what? Him. The end. The apocalypse. The world, Boom. Going up like a cherry bomb. Me. I don't know. I love it here. Some nights I can't sleep because I just lay there and think about the cruel and beautiful things that happen in the day. How could you want something like that to end? Him. How about that girl? You talked to her yet? Me. Not yet. Him. Why not? Me. I'm thinking about the options for how to do it. Him. It's not enough that you arrange the past. You have to tinker with the future now too. Me. I like to think. Him. You should try living. And that there are multiple sections that kind of go on in the same kind of development and detail. But they're just, again, two examples of this book and reasons why I think it works just so well. So that's just to kind of get our conversation started. We ask again that you just join us in the comments and talk about things that you took away from the book, things that maybe moved you, things that you remember, things that impressed you, things you have questions about, and we'll continue that conversation. We appreciate you joining us this summer to read along with us for our summer book club. It's really been a pleasure. I've enjoyed it. I hope everybody has a great rest of your summer. Happy reading, everybody.